Ça raconte l'histoire d'un orage qui monte. Et des insectes qui le sentent. Et s'agite. Et la tempête qui éclate.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our special bonus episode of the film Portrait of a Lady on Fire, or if you prefer, Portrait de la jeune fille en feu, which is the official real title.
Fancy, so fancy.
You know, if you got it, flaunt it, right? Anyway.
Right.
Oh, goodness. Anyway, so we would just like to thank everyone who voted for this film. This was one of 4 options for our Pride bonus episode. And I don't know, I can't speak for Lauren, but I know I was pretty excited that this one won. I liked all 4 of the films that we submitted for your consideration, but I was kind of secretly hoping this was the one that would win. So
You know what, so was I, because this was one that we managed to somehow not mention when we were talking about, Pride films and stuff like that. And at the end of all of that, I was like, damn it, we didn't talk about Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is like one of the biggest LGBTQ films of recent years. So
exactly. Yeah, it's like this, Carol, Call Me by Your Name are the ones that everyone just talks about all the time.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we would like to thank everyone, like I said, for voting for it. We did put the poll up, not just on Twitter this time, but also on Patreon for the Patreon subscribers who may not be on Twitter. We didn't have as many votes as I was kind of hoping, but maybe that's just because it's new. So just so you guys know, we will be doing that every month now. So look for those polls. When you hear us announce that we're going to be doing our bonus, look for the polls on Patreon. And you know what? Honestly, if you're on Twitter too, you can vote twice. We're never gonna know. Just saying.
Loading the ballot box, my God.
You know, sometimes people just want to do that. And, as long as it doesn't put Trump in office, I'm okay with it. I hate when I say funny things and you're muted, because then I don't know if you're reacting or not.
I'm sorry, I was moving my computer. I was smiling. Smiling, but you cannot see that on my face through the computer.
It's true, because we don't do this with our cameras on, because this view is not that great right now. Anyway, so let's talk about Portrait of a Lady on Fire. This film came out in 2019, and it won a bunch of awards and was nominated for a bunch of others. It was considered at one point or another a front runner. Well, not necessarily a front runner, because nothing was gonna probably beat Parasite, but it was considered a strong contender for foreign language film until it was not submitted by its home country. So there was that. Anyway,
I think probably says a lot about France, and given some of the things that also went down during that year.
Yeah, France has got some troubles, and it's one of these situations where I believe with all of my heart, and you can never convince me otherwise, if it had been the exact same film with a male director's name on it, they would have submitted it and they would have just praised the shit out of it. So,
But it could never have been the exact same film with a male director.
Exactly.
And I'm certain we're going to talk about that, because I have some other films I would like to compare this to.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I say with a male director's name on it. Like, it wouldn't have had to be directed by a man. It just had to like look like it was, and then people would have been like, oh yeah, you know. Anyway, so the plot summary for this movie is: on an isolated island in Brittany at the end of the 18th century, a female painter is obliged to paint a wedding portrait of a young woman, which is such a basic plot summary of this movie. It was written and directed by Céline Sciamma, and it stars Noémie Merlant, Adèle Haenel, and Luana Bajrami. I hope I'm saying that name correctly. It also has an appearance by Valeria Golino, which, if you don't know who she is, she starred in a movie with Tom Cruise, so shame on you for not knowing that.
I did not know that she was in a movie with.
She was in Rain Man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like back in the day. She was also in Hot Shots with Charlie Sheen.
So, you know, some
anyway,
good, some not so good. All right, yeah, we all have to eat and work. Actresses have to work.
Exactly. Anyway, all right. So let's start off just talking about our basic general thoughts of the film, and then we can talk about some of the specific themes and things like the cinematography, the female gaze, stuff like that. So first of all, Lauren, I know you saw this movie way sooner than I did, and you were talking about it for a long time before I finally got a chance to watch it. So I would like for you to talk first about your initial thoughts and why this film resonated so much with you.
Yeah, I got to see this back when it was shown at the New York Film Festival in whatever that was, 2019. Must have been, yeah. So, and I mean, it was one of those films that had already had a lot of buzz surrounding it. It had, I think at that point, it had done Cannes, it had done like a whole bunch of different places. And so this was a major one that I was like, okay, I definitely need to see this. And I saw it in the same festival, I think, that they showed Parasite as well. So this was a good festival that year.
Seriously.
But this one, you know, I kind of went into it with the assumption that I was probably going to like it because it had been it had received so many accolades. But I was like, okay, you know, whatever. I didn't really know who Céline Sciamma was or much about the film itself. It's, you know, basically what you talked about in terms of like the synopsis. And I think that what caught me off guard with this one was just how gorgeous it is, and just the cinematography, but also the way that the women are photographed, the way that the women relate to each other. It, you know, the end of the film, which I think we're going to talk about, is just this static camera shot, right? And so it's all about faces and bodies, and it's like, it's heartbreaking. The ending of the film is just devastating, and like at the end of it, me and one of my friends were like walking out. I was like, okay, well, my soul is destroyed. But yeah. At the same time, it doesn't, you know, it's one of those films that even though it doesn't have a quintessential happy ending, as it were, it still feels right. Like everything that happens in it, you know, and the characters know that there's a limitation on their relationship, that this isn't going to turn out to be this, you know, something that goes on forever or anything like that. And ultimately that's okay, because it's so meaningful while it's happening. Yeah, it's such a gorgeous film, and there's such a limited dialogue, and I know that most of the men really loved to point this out, I think because they wanted points. But yes, there are very, very few men actually in this film, and in fact, when a man does appear nearing the end of the film, it does feel like this invasion. You know, it's just like, oh God, like there's a man there. No, that's not a good thing. And I think that the film does that really well without making it a thing. Like it's so obvious that it feels like an invasion, because you've kind of been plunged into this world that is entirely shaped by women, that is entirely populated by women, and that is about female relationships. And it reaches this point, not just the central romantic relationship, but the relationship between older women and younger women, between mothers and daughters, between servants and and employers, all of that stuff. And there's this wonderful give and take that goes on with it. And then when a man appears, it's like, okay, well, now all of the fun is over.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a gorgeous film. Rewatching it a second time, I noticed a whole bunch of things that I hadn't really seen initially, because I knew how it was going to play out and because I knew some of the images that were going to recur.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a film that I mean, like you said, it's beautiful. The way that it's photographed, the way that it's written, the score is used very sparingly. There's the dialogue is only, they only talk when necessary. You know what I mean? Like there's just so much of there's a word I was thinking of earlier, but it's just a very meditative film, but it's not slow. It's not it doesn't drag. It's not boring ever, but it's very one of the things I think that Celine Sciamma does very, very well is just allow things to play out. There's a lot of lingering and a lot of just taking time. It's nothing is ever rushed. Nothing ever feels hurried or anything like that. It all just feels like you just get to watch these scenes unfold, and it's so beautiful the way that it's done. And what that does is not only build up this central relationship between this painter and her subject, but it also allows for these conversations when Heloise's mom is around and she's talking to Marianne, and those conversations are just, there's so much subtext of, like, there's a lot of things that are overtly stated, but a lot of things that are just understood too. And then also when you bring in Sophie, who is this girl who works in the house, and her situation, you know, and it deals with subjects of abortion and stuff like that. And it's all done in such a way that is just, it feels natural. It doesn't feel overwrought, I think that's the word I was looking for before. And just, yeah. And the camera work in it, I think one of the things that initially struck me and that I really was paying attention to on rewatching it was the way that, you know, I just kept thinking about these stories where there's like this isolation and sort of this forbidden love type of theme. There's a tendency when you have male directors and cinematographers to darken the subject, to make it just generally like use darker, more muted tones to really highlight that this is something that's like taboo. But what I love here is that it's bright. Everything is just color and just light, and it feels just good. It feels positive, even when things are uncomfortable. It's never it never feels dark or does that make sense? Like it's always just like just beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I think I said in my review way back when that you could freeze almost any frame of that film and it would look like it would be a painting, right? But at the same time, the movement is also what matters. One of the things I really liked about it in terms of the cinematography is that, unlike, you know, and in some ways I almost want to compare it to someone like Kubrick, right? Who crafts these gorgeous images.
Yeah.
Right. But one of the issues that I think you run into with Kubrick is that it is photographic in a certain sense, right? There are these like static moments. One of the things that I love about this film is that even though you could, you know, freeze it and you would have a fantastic photograph. In fact, there were a couple of times when I paused it and I was like, oh my God, it's like a Renaissance painting.
So beautiful.
Right? It's gorgeous, right? The image is gorgeous and the composition is gorgeous. So much you have to have that movement. You have to have that fluidity. It's not about these static moments. It is about the movement. So I like the kind of combination of showing, right, the portrait of a lady on fire, that the film that basically introduces the flashback, with like most of the film is a flashback. And then when you actually get to that point where you get that image, the image itself, you on the one hand, it's like you see where she got the image, and at the same time, it is so meaningful. But it's so much of it is about the movement itself. It's about the flickering of the flames. It's about her looking at Heloise. It's about Heloise literally catching on fire, like her dress, and her noticing the fact that her dress has caught on fire and not doing anything initially, right? And that other people have to go and help her and put it out. And all of that is so meaningful. So you've got this wonderful relationship between this capturing an image, right, in paint or on film, but also the fact that it has to be kinetic. It has to be moving for it to really get at the meaning of it.
Yeah, and that's something that they even talk about at one point when Marianne finally tells Heloise, because she's brought there kind of in secret. So she's there to paint this painting, but because Heloise has all these problems with, you know, she doesn't want to sit for a portrait, and she had an issue with the painter before, which we can talk about that in a minute. But so Marianne's there just like, oh, be friends with her and then paint secretly at night. And when she's finally ready to share that with her, and they look at the painting together that she's made, and Heloise starts talking to her about that, like, is this how you see me, and is this really what I look like to you? And so then Marianne starts in on this, like, well, there's theory and there's technique and all that, and they have this interesting conversation that's really about that, because there's so much more when you're capturing someone's image. It really is so much more than just that frozen in time kind of paused shot. Yeah.
And I think Heloise even says, so there's no life, or it's something like that, right? So you can capture my image, but you can't capture who I am. And of course, by the end of it, everything that has gone into that painting and the relationship and everything, and the fact that what they really have of each other in the end are paintings and memories.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because I'm going to be slightly scholarly and slightly elitist here. So I've recently been reading Proust.
Of course you have.
Because I could talk about that at some point, but so one of the things in Proust, this actually does have relationship to what we're talking about. One of the things in Proust is about the fleetingness of memory, right? The fact that simply something very simple can evoke all of these sensory memories. And that's part of what is happening in this film, is that you've got what you have left of this relationship are, the page of a book and a miniature and a painting, which evoke all of these other emotions, and music, right? Which evoke all of these other emotions and experiences and memories, because they're associated with something so meaningful for the characters. But the things themselves don't have that life in the same way. They are given life, basically, by the memories of the characters.
Beautifully stated.
I've read 4 volumes of Proust so far. I just want to put that out there.
Wow. Meanwhile, I've been trying to read the same 100 and something page book for like 2 months. So
well, this is over the course of 4 years.
Okay.
So I read a Proust a year.
You've been listening to our June bonus episode, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. To hear the rest, visit patreon.com/citizendame and subscribe.